What's up, Buttercup? Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is The Second Mrs. Astor by Shana Abe. I recently read and reviewed Shana's other book, An American Beauty, about Arabella Huntington, a very rich woman during the Gilded Age, and I loved it. So I immediately bought this other book of hers, and I loved it too. 5 perfect stars. I love the cover, very historical fiction, and the blurb is 100% accurate to the story. We love to see it. Let me just read it for y'all so then we can know the basics and then jump into the non-spoilerly review. Madeline Talmadge Force is just 17 when she attracts the attention of John Jacob Jack Astor. Madeline is beautiful, intelligent, and solidly upper class, but the Astors are in a league apart. Jack's mother was the Mrs. Astor, American royalty and New York's most formidable socialite. Jack is dashing and industrious, a hero of the Spanish-American War, an inventor, and a canny businessman. Despite their 29-year age difference, the scandal of Jack's recent divorce, Madeline falls headlong into love and becomes the press's favorite target. On their extended honeymoon in Egypt, the newlyweds finally find a measure of peace from photographers and journalists. Madeline feels truly alive for the first time and is happily pregnant. The couple plans to return home in the spring of 1912 aboard an opulent new ocean liner. When the ship hits an iceberg close to midnight on April 14th, there is no immediate panic. The swift, state-of-the-art RMS Titanic seems unsinkable as Jack helps Madeline into a lifeboat. He assures her that he'll see her soon in New York. 4 months later, at the Astor's Fifth Avenue mansion, a widowed Madeline gives birth to a son. In the wake of the disaster, the press has elevated her to the status of virtuous, tragic heroine. But Madeline's most important decision still lies ahead, whether to accept the role assigned to her or carve out her own remarkable path. I adore history, so I knew all about the infamous Astor family, but I was intrigued by Madeline Force, who married John Jacob Astor over 20 years her senior, but they fell in love and honeymooned in Europe and in Egypt to get away from the press, and John Jacob Astor lost his life saving Madeline and their unborn child, and Madeline's nurses, and many others in the Titanic. He helped his family, notably, onto a boat along with a few other women and children, asked if he could join because Madeline was pregnant, but he was denied, unfortunately. So he stayed on the Titanic deck, helping others and his footmen and their beloved dog, Kitty. All 3 of them perished when the Titanic sank. That is not a spoiler, that is historical fact, so don't at me in the comments. You know, let me tell you, I sobbed, I did, when I was reading that specific part. It was very moving. I'm not going to say exactly how it was written or anything like that because that would be a spoiler, but yeah, I was sobbing so hard. And there are no regrets whatsoever because that whole situation was written and handled beautifully. Now, we also see how the couple met. That's actually the main part of the book. And then we see their courtship, their early marriage, and of course their honeymoon. All of the book was written incredibly well and with care because the Astors, that family is still alive, and there are direct descendants from John Jacob Astor and Madeline. I really loved all of the characters. They were fully fleshed out, and I felt for all of them, including the ones that were kind of rude. The story was engaging from the first page, and I loved every second of it. I looked up Madeline Force Astor and her life after her husband's death, and it was very sad. I feel for her and her son, who also had a hard life mentally and emotionally. I obviously don't know either of them, but Madeline's story especially is very sad, and she died fairly young. I think she would have been very happy if her husband did not die on the Titanic, sacrificing his life for her and their son. But that alone was an amazingly selfless act on John Jacob Astor's part, and I admire him while also feeling very sad about that whole situation. No one knew that the Titanic would sink. They were told over and over again for many, many hours that everything was fine and to not worry, but something told John Jacob Astor that it was not okay after a certain point, because he owned a yacht and was on that yacht for many, many days out of the week, months, years. So I think they did the best they could, especially Mr. Astor, and Madeline's story is not uncommon. There were a lot of women that had children or they were pregnant that went on the boat, the upper class, I should know, the upper class women got on lifeboats and they had to leave their husbands behind, and they never saw their husbands ever again. But that, I don't think, diminishes the intense feelings of knowing that you would not see your husband or brother or uncle, just any male family member again, and you are being paddled away in a lifeboat with a bunch of other women and children, and you're watching your husband or any male relative on the deck, and that's the last time you ever see them again, because they either drown, they get hit over the head and are killed by, like falling debris, or they freeze to death in the water. And I can see how Madeline Force could not recover. She was looking for love. She was married 2 other times, and then she died young in Florida after the 3rd husband beat her and they divorced, and it was just unfortunate. It was so unfortunate. So I give this book 5 perfect stars, and I highly recommend The Second Mrs. Astor if you're interested in the Astors, Madeline Force, and the Titanic. Thank you so much for watching my non-spoilery historical fiction review on this novel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!